Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited. My guest, Michaela Giordano Castro, is here, and she is going to share who she is, what it is that she does, and how she can help you. So, Michelle, Michaela, take it away.
Thank you so much, Tammy, and thank you for having me. Yes, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I mainly work as a therapist using internal family systems therapy, which is like parts work with my clients. But my main passion is in my spirituality coaching. And my goal there is to support women who are struggling with leaving religion to find their authentic spirituality and confidence and purpose outside of it.
Oh my God, that is so powerful. When I read that, I thought, oh, we're gonna have a good conversation. All right, so let's get into it. So how did you decide to, do the spirituality coaching? What prompted you to go in that direction?
It's interesting because, being in the social work field for years now and, working towards my therapy license and all of this, there's a common question in the field of like, what is the population that you want to specialize in? What is the population you're most interested in working with? And I could never give an answer because I always felt just drawn to help people in general. There wasn't any particular issue or population that I felt especially drawn to. I was interested in it all. But after 10 years of being outside of religion, and I had also closed the door to spirituality when I left religion personally, because it was just such a painful process for me that I felt threatened by spirituality in general.
Yes.
And so, I had my spiritual awakening outside of religion. And within that time frame, all of this information about coaching was coming my way. And again, I was faced with this question of if I was to coach, what would be the population? And for the first time in my life, I felt so clear and so drawn to a specific population because after going through my awakening, I thought about, just how much faster I could have come to this conclusion had I had the right support
Yes.
versus just navigating it on my own. And I just felt so passionate and drawn to this work that I said, all right, I'm going to do it.
That is so powerful. That's powerful because the thing is what I've learned is as we go on this journey, everything starts to reveal itself, and not to get so caught up in, the small details, not even the how or any of that stuff. Just be open to receive. And so that's something that, yes. And, the religion part we have in common because I did the same. I was raised in it and I got to a place where, to be honest, I always questioned it, even as a child. Like I had questions that nobody could answer or nobody would answer. And, but growing up, I thought, okay, I turned 17 and I said, I'm not going back to church anymore. I said, because, if God pulled out a file, and he can look on, July 12th, 19, whatever, he'll see that I was in church. So I think I've served my time with that. So I'm gonna, exit stage left, and but I didn't. I actually just kind of just didn't do anything for a little while. And then once I had my children and stuff, I was like, all right, and then, and it didn't help that my grandmother was a pastor. So that was another thing. But she wasn't overbearing or anything like that, and people, I say that people are like, oh, but no, she wasn't that. She wasn't like really pushy and she didn't like beat you into submission to, go to church and all this stuff. No, she wasn't that. But I think I thought about it. I was like, well, maybe I'm not, just need to go to a different place, and so I did. I went to some different churches and different things. And then after a while, I got to the place where I said, I just can't do this no more, because I don't believe some of the things that they believe. And I felt that so much of it was just, oh, not true. And so much patriarchy and so much manipulation and brainwashing and colonizing in that book. And so I said, can't do it. Can't do it. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, for me, I was actually I mean, like as a kid, I believed it all, but I didn't I didn't really think about it. It was just like, okay, this is what I'm taught, this is true, period. But as I got a little bit older, I did start having questions and I did start having doubts. So when I was about 11, we had moved back to America. My dad's Italian, as I mentioned earlier, and we had lived there for a while, and he was the preacher there. So I was the pastor's kid for the years we lived there and all of that. And once we moved back after several years of being there, I started to question if any of this was even real. And I started to ask God to help me with my doubt. And I had an experience where I had a nightmare, which I never really had nightmares. And I was very absorbed into like the good girl role,
Yes.
not bothering my parents, doing everything right that I could. Of course, that doesn't mean I did everything right. um, but this nightmare, interestingly enough, got me to feel, I guess, confident, for lack of a better word, to tell my mom, hey, can I, stay in bed with y'all because I had this nightmare. And usually I would never do anything like that. Um, so I did that, and my dad woke up really early and left, and it was early morning, and I felt like, wait, maybe this is God giving me the chance to talk to my mom about my doubts. And so I don't remember the questions or the answers, but with that experience, I felt very like assured and like soothed of my doubts. And I felt like, oh, God did this for me. And I had a real interaction with God in a way. And so I became very on fire for God, very spiritual and very religious until I was 16. And being very spiritual, very religious, I was practicing the Sabbath and fasting and focusing only on godly things those days and all this stuff that I thought would help me get closer to God. And I decided to go into the living room to see what my parents were chatting about. And again, my dad's Italian. He was a preacher. He likes to talk. So it was nothing new that our mom's on the couch, my dad's standing talking. Maybe he was sitting, but I just sat down and listened in. And I came to understand that my dad was saying that God isn't real and you're a fool to be tricked by religion, these kinds of ideas. And I was so shocked that I literally couldn't believe my ears. I was like, I don't know what's happening or how, but somehow my ears are malfunctioning. But of course, it was true. Now, over time, my dad came back to spirituality outside of religion in his own way, but that just kind of started me being forced to question things on a deeper level. I
Yes.
thought I had questioned things and researched things, especially because I was also raised in a very conservative, homeschooled environment. And so, I was, yes, homeschooled, but I was interacting with all these other homeschooled families, and there were classes and co-ops and things like that. So I was being taught all this information from the standpoint of the Bible is the word of God. Everything in the Bible is true.
Mhm.
Living according to God's law is the way you have the happiest, most fulfilled life. And even apologetics, which is the defense of religion, how to back up, your beliefs in religion. So I was trained in all these ways. And so I felt very equipped to, stay strong in my faith, help my dad see differently. And again, I have his genes. So there was the arguing, the discussing, the Italian stuff coming through. So for 2 years, I was forced to question things on a deeper level. And I was having these conversations consistently. And just over time, I fought it a lot. I had a lot of back and forth of, can I believe this? Okay, I'm choosing to believe this. And then just like, I can't. Like, I can't pretend I don't believe this. I wanted to, because I not only did I believe it was the way towards the best life we can have, but it was also all I knew. My whole culture, my whole family, my whole community that I interacted with was all Christian. I also, by the time I finally let the door of religion close, I was 18 and getting ready for college. And I had already signed up to go to a very strict Christian university. So, and that wasn't going to change because my mom said, if you go here, I'll pay for you. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not saying no to that. Like, so I still went there and I still had that experience, but yeah, it was a long journey of questioning. I mean, I really fought for my faith. I read books, I did research, I traveled for the first time on my own. I bought a ticket and went to this conference by myself when I was 18, hoping that God would somehow, get through to me because I wanted to believe in these things. And I just eventually got to the point where I couldn't fight it anymore. Like I said, I let that door close on religion, but I also chose to close the door on spirituality because they were too intertwined for me that I wasn't able to feel safe and comfortable to explore spirituality after the pain of the loss of religion, which had been such a comfort for me for so long.
Yeah, yeah. That had to be some type of experience. Would you classify that as a dark night of the soul for you?
That's a good question. I mean, in so many ways it was. I mean, during those 2 years, I struggled with a lot of anger, a lot of confusion. When the day came where I made that decision, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and I was like I just let go. I surrendered to letting this go. It was a lot of grief for me. I mean, I was emotionally torn apart
Yeah,
with that acceptance of I just have to stop fighting this and just let
yeah,
this go. So it was very painful and very difficult. But in the following years, I took more of like a defensive approach, I would say. I mean, there's all kinds of responses to deconstruction. Some people are angry.
yes,
Some people like regret the time missed. Some people are just feeling really lost and really sad at
yes,
not believing that they'll have what they thought they would have with heaven or different things like this.
yeah,
And the way that they understood it through the Bible. But for me, it was a lot of like stubbornness of, well, fine, I'm still going to have the best life possible, even without, God in the Bible and religion and all these things. So there's a
yes,
lot of just focusing on what can I do to
yeah,
be happy.
yes,
When it comes to the idea of purpose, like I very quickly just grabbed onto this belief that I'm going to choose my purpose and I'm going to live according to that as purpose. And there was a lot of repression after that initial grief.
yes,
But for me, a lot of it came through in the 2 years it took to get to that point.
yeah. I truly believe that this process, I compare it to the stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I compare it to those stages because it's not linear. You go through it all kinds of different times. It could be over here. You could think you healed from this, and then you could, keep on going. There's tears, there's anger, all the things. And I feel like it's one of those things that, you know, so many people don't really talk about. We
Mm-hmm.
know that it's happening because it's happened to us and many people that we know, but
Mm-hmm.
there's this feeling of feeling ostracized when you decide to take that step and you say no, and people ask you, because I've had people ask me, well, what church do you go to? I said, I go to the Church of the Living God. And they said, well, where's that? I said, inside of me.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. And even statistically, I mean, Christianity's in trouble. Like people are leaving in flocks, and the research is supporting this. Decade after decade, it's only, you know, getting faster. So, I mean, it's understandable with where I'm at and what I know and all of that, but I also know for those in the midst of it right now, like you said, it can feel very isolating and scary. again, so much community is found through religion. And so to turn away from that is very difficult. Uh, mhm.
Think about
Yeah.
it, it's where we had like our first communities.
Hmm.
This is what we know. You go to church and then like our church when I was younger, it had a kitchen in the basement. So we
Hmm.
went to church and then they went down, especially those long days. God, you stopped at whatever time and then we went down to the basement and ate. And then after that, you went back upstairs and you went back to church some more. So it is that type of community. And then you know, you have your own language, within the church community,
Yeah.
and that when you start to leave, or when I say when your eyes begin to open and you realize that there's so much more, and you realize that that stuff is so much brainwashing and manipulation and colonization and all the things. And it's like, yeah, no. And you start waking up and then, you lose people.
Mhm.
Can you speak to that part of it, the journey?
Mm. When I left, I was terrified to tell anyone. Like when I stopped being Christian, like I was terrified to say it out loud. Not
Yes.
because I was like, because it's interesting for me, I never feared like like within Christianity, I think I did have that like romanticized fear of God that they say is so positive. It's so, like you said, brainwashing. Like I remember truly feeling and believing that this is a positive, healthy thing to fear God. And now being so removed from it, now I see like, no, that is not healthy or positive to fear your God. But anyways, um, so I don't remember why I was bringing that up. I was talking about fearing talking about not being Christian, and I yeah, I was terrified of it. And I remember at one point, I finally told this girl I met at college. And interestingly enough, she was actually someone pursuing ministry, but in the Church of Christ, which was the church I grew up in the college I went to, women can't preach. And
That's
so
right.
she had to go for like the youth minister kind of
Yes. Yes.
section. But nonetheless, so like, you could say she was religious. In fact, I would say she was religious for that reason. Um, but when I told her I wasn't Christian, it was funny because she told me that I was more Christian than most Christians she knew. And this is again at a Christian university, and she's in Bible college and all of this. And so it just goes to show, there's a big difference between religion and spirituality.
Yes.
But within, yeah, leaving the religion, it was hard. I remember I was working with a therapist to help me get to the point of telling my mom. And, she was actually pretty, like, not supportive, but she was not like like you were describing your grandma. She wasn't like pushy or anything like that. I mean, she would still sometimes text me asking me to pray for something or sending me scriptures. And that did hurt only because, I want to be taken seriously. I'm an adult now, and this is not what I believe. And so I felt like she was like pushing her beliefs on me. But over time, there are ways that, I learned to kind of navigate that. But even like online, like I would never say explicitly or share anything explicitly that I was not Christian until I decided to do this work. Now I'm like, 0 to 100. Now I'm all over the place on every social media about how I am not Christian and I want to help you if you are struggling with that battle to just support you and know it's possible. But it's hard. It's scary because, depending on the people, some people are very hateful about it. It's very sad that there's this very common saying in a lot of deconstruction groups that there is no hate like Christian love. And
Yeah.
that's so sad.
It is so
Um,
sad.
but
It's
nowadays
not
there is
God.
exactly, I agree. But there is more access to community now. I mean, I will say when I left, over 10 years ago, I I didn't look. I didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's very clear, especially with again, just the statistics of how many people are leaving. There's so many groups on Facebook. There's so many different influencers that are talking about this thing. So it can be a little bit easier, but
Yeah.
absolutely so difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and this work that you're doing is powerful because people need support. And it's because you have this confusion, especially if you've been in it a long time. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was decades. And, you have this thing where, you have this fear. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
thing is too, if you are surrounded in that community by same people that are, doing the same thing that you're doing, when you step out, you lose that community because then they're hateful. Then they're what did Christ say? Don't judge, they're judgmental. Then
Mm-hmm.
they're, telling you you're gonna go to hell and all this stuff. And those are things that, even if you don't consciously believe them, they're back here somewhere. You feel them. Like I was speaking with the other gentleman that I just interviewed, and I said, for years I couldn't even do like the tarot and stuff like that because they told us that was the devil, and
Mm-hmm.
mediums and things like that, stuff, psychic stuff that I do, all that was the devil. I was going to hell for all that. You know? I said, so somewhere in there, because they put it in you and they pounded it in there and they brainwashed us and they manipulated us to think that all of these things were against God and we were going to hell, and that is hard,
Mm-hmm.
because I've talked to lots of people that have been deconstructing or have deconstructed, and that is a part of the journey. It's like, all this stuff that, they put in us. You think about it, you said now we call them affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
but they said things in the church, they would speak the things out and stuff like that. And you spoke all these things out, and then you started realizing that no, no, this can't be God. And I know for me, I had a struggle with, I'm leaving religion, but am I leaving God?
Mm-hmm.
So was that something that you struggled with as well? Because I had to kind of really, really dive into that, because I'm like, no, I believe in God. But all that
Mm-hmm.
crap that, in them cults, no, I don't believe in that.
Mm. Yeah, that was really difficult for me because I think because I was so specifically like programmed by the curriculums I was in, the classes and the church, all the experiences and all of that, to see God as the God of the Bible and to see everything outside of that as wrong.
Yes.
Like any other religion, any other view of God, everything else is wrong, only this is right.
Yep.
And so when I realized that what I thought was right was wrong, I just was just like, this is too much for me. I can't. And so that was part of the grief for me is that, again, like I always felt that, you know, either God is real and, God is a loving God, or everything's impersonal and maybe even just like material. Like I never was atheist and said there is no anything supernatural possible.
Right.
But after I left religion, I didn't try to have a relationship with God or get to understand God outside of religion. I just felt like I thought I had it right and I didn't. I'm not going to risk that again. I was afraid of the pain of, being wrong again. And so I just closed the door to spirituality in total and just tried to focus on other avenues to find fulfillment and joy in different things. So like I became a therapist and, I was really focused on science. So eventually, I learned the science about the benefits of meditation. So I did start to incorporate some meditation into my self-care. Um, but it really took learning to choose myself that really made so much more of a difference in my reconnection to spirituality. Interestingly enough, it wasn't like one day I was like, I want to be spiritual again. But there was a growing curiosity over time. And as I had felt like I was healing more from my pain over losing religion and different things like that. So eventually I did feel like, the idea of God, what we call God, was, speaking to me in different ways, guiding me in different ways. And then I was able to look back on everything that I had gone through and feel like it all made sense to bring me to this point of doing this work here now.
That is so powerful. That was actually going to be my next question. That's so powerful. It's because I noticed that many times as I look back, okay, so I met this lady on a cruise. I was on a Princess Alaska cruise, and I met this young lady, and she had been Mormon. The funny thing is for some reason on that cruise, I was in the hot tub. I was surrounded by all these Mormons, and And so it was kind of funny. And I had spoken to them because I had just gotten back from Salt Lake City right before we came on the cruise because my son graduated from Western Governor. So we went to his graduation. And while we were there, we went to the genealogical institute where the Mormons, have. So we could look up our ancestry people and all that stuff. It's amazing, phenomenal, by the way. So it was funny. So we got on this cruise and I had all these Mormons, but most of them were deconstructing. A few were still kind of sorta, and then one guy he actually went to get me a drink, and I said, "Are you Mormon?" He said, "Mormonish." So I thought that was funny, but she actually apologized to her children for bringing them up in that because she realized that, just crazy and cultish and all the stuff. And so we had a long conversation about it. And I said, you know what? I said, you have to realize that, our journeys are not linear. I said, the other thing is everything on them, gets us to the place where we are now. I said, so that may have been something that really did help them. I said, because, there's a love and a kindness when you're in those type of communities, that you might not get outside of it easily. I said, and so you have to think about that. I said, because I didn't apologize to my children for that. I just, they know that I was in a different place. I said, but the other part is I appreciated it because it did teach them some things. Like my children know how to pray. They know how to pray, regardless of whether they're in somebody's church or, somebody's building or whatever. They know how to connect with God. And that I have appreciation for, the church for. I said, now, so the rest of it, no. I said, but you can find good things within, all of it. And it all contributes to this journey because if I hadn't gone through that, then I couldn't have gotten here. Yes, it probably took me a long time to get here, but it's okay because now I'm here. It's like when you go to college, like people that have, like gone back to college at an older age or something. They're like, oh, well, it took me 50 years to get my degree or whatever. Yeah, but you got it now. So now we're not going to stress over that. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to be grateful that now I have it. Yes, it would have been great to have it, 40 years ago or whatever, but you didn't do it then. But now you did. And that's like to me, that's just like this journey. It's like, we've been on this journey, we've gone through that and gotten that. We got a lot of things from it, but now it's time to, leave that behind and move on to, where you feel like you're supposed to go down. For me, I feel like it's a freedom that we've gotten from moving out of that and into this, and for me, the challenge was integrating myself with it, So can you speak to um, some of the things that you say to women, or is it mostly women that you work with? Some of the things that you say to women that are coming, out of that, I call it coming out of the fog.
Yeah. Well, it applies to what you just shared because, you're talking about the freedom that is felt. And I feel that so strongly and so viscerally, whereas I didn't for several years, even after leaving religion. When you're fresh out of it, I mean, everyone's experience is different, but it can feel like the opposite. It can feel like you're trapped because you're trapped with your, like, by your doubt, keeping
Yes.
you from this idea of this like beautiful relationship with God and your church family and all these different things. Now, there are also the people who leave religion because of abuse within it and
Yes.
just kind of mistreatment within it.
Yes.
And, even there can be this feeling. I mean, sometimes maybe like a feeling of freedom from that source, but
Mhm.
still, some confusion of, okay, now what? Do I believe in God? Am I a spiritual person? These different things. So, I mean, regardless of where you're at with how you feel about religion, as you're doubting it or once you've left it, I always talk about the importance of noticing what that is for you. How are you feeling? How are you doing with it? What is going on in your thoughts? What kind of sensations arise in your body? Like for me, I was very triggered by religion, which didn't work so well when I'm in this Christian college for 4 years, straight out of it. I had to I had to take Bible every semester, chapel every day. There were so many Christian strict rules we had to follow to be their version of godly Christian women and all of that, and men. But anywho, um, but yeah, for a long time, if my mom, like I said, would text me or my dad would say something about the Bible or whatever, I would get angry. And
Yeah.
that's a sign, this, our emotions, are our body talking to us.
Yes.
And if an emotion is coming up, especially if it's coming up, quickly like that, it says that there is something within you that you can suppress and you can push away, but it doesn't change the fact that it's there. And
Yes.
over time, unaddressed emotions can fester and it can explode and it can be an emotional outburst. It can be a physical illness. We now have more scientific evidence to prove that or to support that. But so yeah, getting curious about yourself, how is this impacting me? How am I feeling about this? And then doing some feel to heal work. We got to work through that emotion. We can't just ignore it. The way out is through. So that's a big part of how I start working on things with people in this situation. Because from there you can see where there is to go.
Yeah. Because the thing is the churches typically are not encouraging us to feel. Matter of fact, they're encouraging the opposite. They don't want you to feel. And they
Mhm.
tell you stuff like, well, God is not in your feelings and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so what am I supposed to do with these?
Oh yeah, and then there's the flesh is weak, the heart is sinful, all these things which just literally turn you off to your intuition, which is why so much abuse is rampant in the church. I mean, there's just so much to it, but absolutely, and that's a hard part of things as well. And so this is more of, I mean, honestly, I've seen it used in both therapeutic spaces and spiritual healing spaces. This whole idea of feel to heal, but
Yes.
it's a great starting point to get to know your body, get to connect back to your body, and learn to pay attention to it, learn to listen to it, be in this conversation with it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thing that's so amazing is I was talking to a friend. I said, that is usually the first step in any session that I do is teaching people to learn how to connect to their bodies so
Mm-hmm.
that you know what you're feeling and what you're feeling to mean and all of these things. I said, because, we're disconnected,
Mm-hmm.
totally and completely. And we've been conditioned that way, and it's just, it almost just hurts my heart to see that. It's like we've been conditioned to not pay attention to our bodies, not pay attention to our souls,
Mm-hmm.
to just follow and do and no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It brought up thought for me because I was talking about similar topics earlier today, and the more I'm seeing and learning, I mean, the more clear I think it is that like we need and we thrive with connection, and then it's the opposite, when we're disconnected. So,
Yeah.
and there's so much of that relevant, in some ways we're more connected than ever, thanks to, the internet. And there's some truth there. Like you can connect to people all over the world and learn about what they're going through and what they think. And there's so many benefits coming from that. But at the same time, we're so disconnected from those actually around us physically in so many scenarios. We don't know our neighbors. You know, so hard to find time to see a friend, all these different things.
Yeah.
But we see in so many different areas the importance of connection, connection to nature, connection to your body, connection to other people, being vulnerable. There's so much research that shows how this is so healing for relationships and in turn for our quality of life to be vulnerable with others. And we see also in the research the benefits of spirituality. And research does distinguish spirituality from religion.
Yes.
There are religious people who can be spiritual, but there are also religious people who are not spiritual.
Yes.
Spirituality is about connection, about this greater connection to, what some might say like the oneness of all. Some
Yes.
might say spirit or source or God, even ancestors. I mean, it's just at the root, it's this idea of connection. So
Yes.
with spirituality, you have this connection anytime, anywhere. In most cases. So yeah, we just need more connection, and so much is just going to figure itself out.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing when you think about it in that way because it's like, you know, I think that really is the key is connection. And I think that is the point of religion, that it pulls people away from their own connection. Because I know people that have been to church for 50 years, but they really don't have a connection to their God source, to the God source, the universe, the creator, whatever you want to call him or them. They're in the church and they're listening to whatever the hell the pastor's saying and all that. And that's okay. I said, but you need your own connection. You
Mm,
need to be able to hear from God for yourself.
mm,
Albeit through with your spirit guides and your angels and ancestors and all these things, but you need your own connection. And that
mhm,
is, to me, that is so important. And that's why this work that you're doing, bravo. I think it's phenomenal. And I am just so super excited that you've come on here to share about it because people need to know, and
mm,
people need to know that they have support available. Because,
mhm,
just like you and I spoke, I felt alone when I did it. There was nobody, I didn't see anybody doing this work. I didn't find any groups or anything like that. I really didn't even start hearing about it until just maybe a few years ago. But when I first
mhm,
started 10, 15 years ago, there was nothing, and there was just, okay, I had to figure this out, and
mhm,
then who do you talk to? Because all your friends are still there, so
mhm,
it was a lonely, time period and stuff.
mhm.
So we're going to land this plane, but I have one more question that I ask every single one of my guests, and I've only gotten the same answer maybe twice. And that is, if there was anything in the world that you could change, what would that be and why?
Mm. Honestly, like the first thing coming to mind for me is, I mean, it's kind of what I'm trying to do. I would like to see the world change in our understanding of religion, whereas, we can have religion as like a cultural thing, as just like a historical thing, but shifting away from religion being the root of spirituality and creating more of a normalization of spirituality amongst humans, because so far, it's either religion or atheism a lot of the time, which is
Yes,
another reason why I'm passionate about this. I want to help people to know that you don't have to turn to atheism. You can have spirituality outside of religion, and
yes,
there's a lot of healing work that sometimes is needed to get there, but you can get support through that and not have to do it on your own. I
yes,
really believe that spirituality is just like a catalyst for that connection we were talking about. And so more a more spiritual world, more spiritual people will just have a domino effect to so many other changes and benefits that we need in our world. So that's what comes to mind for me.
That is so powerful. I'm just I'm just watching your journey and I'm just so excited for it. Um, what do you see yourself doing going forward? As far as, how do you see this journey expanding? Because I feel like there's expansion all around you for this journey. And so what do you see? Like, do you see maybe retreats for people that are, going through deconstruction or, what do you see?
Yeah, I have dreamt of that, the ability to have those experiences that, many of us got through church of being able to have that retreat and just, kind of charge up your soul and just have community and enjoy that and having that within this population of those deconstructing but spiritual is definitely a dream of mine. But for right now, just working to expand my reach, find the people who would like this kind of support and give them that support and grow in my skills through that to be able to offer more in the future. I definitely have dreams of, writing a book or two. Like I said, retreats, and I have a YouTube channel which I want to use more to create better videos and content to support people on this journey. But I'm already doing that with my little tidbits on like Instagram and TikTok and all of that. So just hoping to grow and expand within it all.
That is so powerful. I'm excited for you and it's going to happen. I can see it. I just can't wait. And I would love for you to come on the panel once I get it going because I really feel called to do this just because so many people need this. And I've been looking for to have different voices, like I have one young lady that she came out of Islam, and so I want some people that come out of that, and then I would like to have, maybe some Mormon people, different types, Jehovah Witness, all of that, all kinds of people that deconstructed from all these different cults. And so I'm excited. I'm so excited, and I'm just excited to see where you're going to go with it because I believe it is such a great need, and if it's not so much yet, it's going to be because
Mm,
people are deconstructing at alarming rates at this time,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
and they need support. It's almost like some of the work that I do to support women is because I know that because I've done that and I've been there. You know what I mean? And it's like I can speak to this and I can
Mhm.
tell you that you can get through it. And so that's kind of what I see for you. It's like it's like that you've been there, you can get through it.
Mhm.
Like you can shine the light because you're already on the other side of it. So
Mhm.
all right, so share with the people where are the best places that they can connect with you, and also if you have any programs or anything that you are, doing, you can share any of that. And all of your details and everything will be in the show notes, so they can click those links and stuff that you sent me.
Perfect. Yeah. So my links will be below with all my social medias. I've got the same handle everywhere. Michela's Mind Munchies. It started actually before I decided to take the spiritual direction, just with the idea of, delicious mind ideas to improve life, and now it's just more focused on the spiritual side. But I'm Michela Giordano Castro on Facebook. You can add me there. Follow me on any social media, and I am, coming out with a coaching program here for specifically releasing religion in a way that allows you to heal and be able to move forward, finding authentic spirituality with purpose and fulfillment and all those good things. So
That
if anyone's interested, we can reach out. But that's myself right now.
that is so amazing. I'm so excited. This has been so much fun. This has been fun, y'all. And I hope that everyone has gotten a lot out of it like I have, because it's been just amazing. So make sure that you like, share, and you subscribe, and that you also check out Michela's links and all the places that you can find her and connect with her there. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to a bright future for you. And I'm looking forward to you coming on the panel as well.
You too. Thank you so much, Jamie.
You're so welcome.